It's been 3 years since the General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR, went into effect in Europe. And here to discuss how data privacy has changed over the years, we have with us Oliver Cronk. He is Tanium's Chief IT Architect in EMEA. So welcome, Oliver.
Thanks, Maggie. Great to be here talking about GDPR.
So how have things changed over the past 3 years?
So I think, things hadn't changed an awful lot in the first year, but clearly, given what's happened with the global situation with the pandemic, things have changed quite drastically in a number of industries. The kind of privacy, particularly when it comes to medical data and personal sort of privacy and contact information, certainly in Europe, has really kind of gone up a notch. Like the nervousness around sharing your information, getting access to do things is quite interesting. So for me, there are three key things that are of interest. The first is a people and process thing. The pandemic has forced people to start collecting more personal information. Like if you go in a shop or go into a restaurant or into a bar, you now have to log, effectively have to log your visit there. You have to track and trace. You have to do all that sort of stuff. People are putting that information somewhere. Your personal contact information is going into places that it wouldn't have done before. You would have just walked in the shop. No one would have known you were there. So there's a privacy concern there. And then there's a tech angle to this as well. Like what devices is that data ending up on? Like previously, the tills may have had payment card information, but would never have had everyone's personal contact information. And then finally, kind of going back to people and process again, that information and other information is being processed by back-end teams, back office teams that would previously have been in an office with lots of controls, lots of physical controls around that office, around the access to information. Now those people are working at home, and they will probably continue to do so quite a lot. So how are organizations changing their policies and their technology management to make sure that the privacy and GDPR compliance isn't being undermined by these new work patterns in this new world that we're in?
That's a really good point. And do you think that GDPR compliance has lost its importance over the past 3 years?
I think clearly there's been other things on people's minds, right? Like kind of health has kind of gone massively up the priority list, of course. And we've seen that in the UK, the ICO have relaxed its enforcement, reflecting on the fact that a lot of businesses are in a difficult spot right now. Their revenues are under pressure, perhaps because of the pandemic. There's reduced footfall to shops, to restaurants, and so on. Hospitality has effectively stopped. So there has been, much like there's been government sort of incentives to kind of get the economy moving again. There's been a relaxation of fines that perhaps might have been crippling for organizations. But that's not to say that this has lost its importance. Like I said earlier, if anything, GDPR is going to become even more important as we store more and more information about people's health and people's rights to access perhaps bars and nightclubs based on whether you've been vaccinated or whether you have a COVID passport or whatever. So I think there's clearly been a bit of a pause and it's gone down the priority list, but I would fully expect this to come right up the priority list again as things recover.
Absolutely. And are you seeing any industries and organizations adapt to these data privacy changes in unique ways?
I mean, it's an interesting one. Certainly the hospitality sector has really had to have a bit of a think. And I have to say what's really interesting is to see how the customer experience has really been changed. Like, I went to the pub for the first time in a long time the other day. And what's really interesting is you no longer have to go up to the bar. You just get out your smartphone, you scan a symbol on the table and you order drinks. But that's collecting information about me. I'm logging in, I'm signing up. Previously I would have walked into a bar and no one would have known who I was. So it's interesting to see the hospitality sector has had to kind of step up and go, right, in order to continue trading, to be compliant with government legislation, we need to collect people's personal information. But let's do that in a way that perhaps enhances the customer experience. So now I go in a pub and yes, okay, there might be maybe some people might have a bit of a privacy concern, but in exchange, beers just turn up at your table, and it's a very easy way to go and socialize now. There's no queuing and there's no messing around at the bar. It's just my drinks arrive after I press on an app. So it's interesting to see different industries sort of perhaps take advantage of interacting with their customers in new ways, as well as then obviously thinking about how they keep that information secure and compliant.
Yeah, it'll definitely be something that we will watch closely over the next few years. Thank you so much, Oliver, for your insights as always.
Thanks, Maggie.
And if you are looking for more information on how Tanium can help with data privacy and risk, you can go to our website, tanium.com.